It's the next morning and solid, ready to go, but not liking this. See that? Not liking it. There's a bubble in there. Let's cut this thing open. There it goes. That was easy. Gotta admit, this is one of the simplest, easiest mold boxes I ever built. Let's see if it'll just pop off. It might not. See if we can't put a knife down around this thing. There it goes. It's coming. There we go. Beautiful. But let's take a close-up look at this bubble before we start cutting this mold. Let us open up this bubble. What this tells me is that there were bubbles still rising while the rubber was curing, or just as it gelled to the point where nothing could rise. So who knows, we may have a lot of bubbles inside of here. See how when I pull up on the mold, you see how the deep holes are wedged down in there? That's kind of what I was counting on. I'm stretching the rubber as far as I can stretch it before I cut it. That way I get as deep as possible a hole in the wax casting, the candle casting. I think some of the holes I'm being able to cut quite deep, and others are just cutting closer to the surface than I would like. What this cut's going to do is make it easier for me to pull the sides away so I can get in deeper into these holes. Here's a handy tip while we're waiting for the crock pot to heat the wax. If you have all these wax chips stuck to your mold, which is kind of a pain, take some tape. Just go around, stick it on there. Just pulls the wax right off of there. I don't see any other bubbles or feel any other bubbles in the cavity, so if this is the only one, that's not going to hurt us. We are ready to pour the mold. The wax is hot in the crock pot. The mold is hot. I don't have a wicking needle, but I do want to put a wick in anyway, so I'm just going to use the old 2 supports method like this. I want to make a support for the wick. This is my fabulous homemade wicking needle. You see that? I just took a piece of wire and bent it into an eyelet. That should suffice. And on the other end of the mold, here on the top of the mold, we're just going to want a support to hold the wick straight and out of the bottom of the mold. So let's just lay on some wolf wax onto that. Put that in place. Let that wax cool. I'm going to come in from the inside where I can see and just poke a hole in the mold. There you go. Just there, it just came through like that. And now we can take our handy dandy device and put the wicking needle down through the hole I just made. Okay, then should just be able to pull the wick through. There it is. Up it comes. Okay, and this will be nice and tight. So pull that through. Very good. All right, and now the wick is not coming out the mold. Very good. All right, this mold is nice and warm. Let's get some rubber bands on it. And these rubber bands are going to want nice even tension on them so that it don't distort the mold, because the mold's a little flappy. That looks good. That's tight. It's tight on this side. Nice clean parting line. Probably one more for good measure. Okay, that's all we should need. I don't want to pour directly out of the crock pot into the mold. I want to have more control over it, and I've got a nice pour spout on this pie tin. So even if I make a mess here, which I may or may not do, I'll be able to pour it with more control out of the pie tin. I hope. That's the theory anyway. See if it works. All right, let's see if this works. That was my biggest worry, was that I didn't have enough wax. I don't have enough wax, so how we are going to address that situation is quickly melt more wax. I don't know if it will do it or not. This mold is poured, and it's going to sit here cooling for a long time. Wax isn't like resin. It takes a big chunk of wax like this quite a long time to cool. And I will be very interested to see how much it shrinks too. So we'll let it sit probably till tomorrow morning, and then we'll pull it out of the mold and see what we got. It's the next morning, and we would be ready to take this mold apart, except first we have to deal with this wicked shrink dimple. Can you see that thing in there? Look at that. Look at the size of that. Plus it's got a nice little meteor cone, which was left by the wick. Anyway, we need to fill this up. So let's go ahead and pour some more wax down in there. This thing is nice and flat and ready to go. See if we can't cut it. Snip the little wick off. Okay. All right, here we go. Keep forgetting that I don't like having paper on my table when I'm demolding. Go away, paper. You're pissing me off. You're making me mad. There we go. Get rid of the paper so I get more traction. Otherwise, the mold just slips and slides and makes a mess. It's annoying. Here we go. Come on out. Let's just come on out. I'm trying not to leave chunkies of mold inside the candle. I'm depending on that stretchy rubber to make that work for me. But we might have to pick out bits of rubber out of the mold. Oh yeah, come on, don't leave the rubber behind. Come on, take that with you. Come on, guy, take it out. Ah, shoot, that broke off. That was too much of an undercut. All right. Okay. Tell you what, that's not terrible. Check this out. So there's these little teeny tiny bits that broke off in the mold. This mold was so rough that it created teeny tiny little projections of rubber. Those will not be in subsequent castings. But I gotta tell you, I'm not ashamed of that. That is not, that's not bad. When you look at the original, you see all the rubber in there and it looks really crappy. But in the candle, because they're the same color, it's nowhere near as distracting. It's nowhere near as bad. Here's another area where the rubber got cut out and you can see it coming. I wanted it to look like this. I wanted these deep holes to be preserved, and I was hoping that the rubber was stretchy enough like it was in here, that would work every time. The take-home lesson from this project is the same thing that I've been repeating week after week, every episode, and that is, if you want to make a successful casting, you have to build a model that's designed for casting. The real way to do this was to go through with my wax pen, carefully and slowly fill every one of those deep holes and every one of the undercuts, preserving as much detail as you possibly could. In other words, taking this from a ball of yarn and making it into a castable sculpture. Now, all of the little tiny flecks, the little teeny tiny bits of rubber that are stuck to this candle, they won't appear in subsequent castings because this is the clean out mold. So for a workaround mold, and for a mold that I did quickly and easily, this yielded up a surprisingly good result. I'm actually pretty pleased with this. Hey, if you like this video, watch this video next. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next week.